Hello everyone and welcome to my review of Wormholes, the brand new pick up and deliver game from AEG, who did send me this game to review. Let's go over roughly how the game plays and then I'll talk about my thoughts and feelings on the game. So the core of the experience is that there is a galaxy map in front of you and that on a turn you only have 3 energy to spend moving across that map. And that is effectively from one hexagon to an adjacent one. You can't go through asteroids or the sun and things like that, so you're going to be going through the clear space, but moving along wormholes, dropping off passengers, even picking some up each turn, they're all considered free actions. So it's only that extra movement that's not through wormholes and stuff that you're really spending on a turn. So let's go through an average turn, how you're scoring points and stuff like that. So first of all, at the start of the game, you're going to be putting a number one wormhole next to the space station. That is going to be an entrance or an exit once you've put down your other number 1 wormhole. So they have 2 ends, and when you've got both ends down, they flip over and are active. You can use them for free and your opponents can use them, but you get a victory point from sort of a side supply if they do that. But that is free movement. So as you're then moving across the galaxy, you have the option to create another part of a wormhole. It's always in order. So you've got to do your 2 1s, your 2 2s, your 2 3s, your 2 4s, and then your 2 5s in that order. So as you've gone out, you've maybe piloted away from that space station a good distance. You've dropped your other end of your wormhole down, and then you can zip back to that space station, or someone else might use it and get you a point. The aim is to create somewhat of a network of these wormholes, not necessarily just your own, maybe utilising some of your opponent's ones as well, because you're going to create a passenger network almost, where you can quite easily, with only your 3 energy movement, wormholes being free, allowing you to jump massive distances around the galaxy and deliver them. So when you're at a planet, you can discard as many cards as you want. You have a hand limit of 4 passengers. And from a planet, you'll randomly draw 4 new ones from the deck. Now, one nice thing is if you draw the planet you're on, that just goes into the side discarded supply. And we'll come on to that in a second. So you don't just get an instant sort of lucky win, and then you just draw another card to replace it, so on, and you keep going until you get a planet that's not the one you're on. Now, that's going to give you some options of where you're going to need to get to. It might be the other side of the galaxy. Well, let's hope there's a wormhole that gets you most of that way, because then you're going to deliver that passenger when you get adjacent to it. And that's 2 points per passenger. And then there's a bonus for, there's 8 planets. For instance, in the smaller map, there's a little bit more when you've got 4 or 5 players. But let's go on that 8 planet map. Well, if you deliver to more than 5 of those throughout the game, you get some bonus points along for those bonus planets. So, do you just deliver to a few planets, a lot of people, or do you spread out a bit and go to many planets and get those bonuses? So, on your turn, you've jumped through a few wormholes, you've spent some of your energy, you've created a wormhole, maybe a start or an end, you have delivered or dropped off some passengers, and then maybe you've picked some up from a planet. The other place you can pick up passengers is the space station, and they're from the discarded cards, so the ones that people have got rid of, or if it's matched the planet they're at. And you can take, again, up to 4 of those, up to your hand limit of 4 that is. So you can discard first and then take, there's 4 matching planet cards there. That's very nice. Now if I get to there, I can deliver all of these passengers in one go. That's 2 points, that's 8 points on a single drop off. That's pretty good going. So as the game goes on, more and more of the galaxy gets connected with wormholes, allowing everyone to jump here, there and everywhere. Now, when you're the first person to put a wormhole next to a planet, you get an exploration token, and when all of those tokens run out, it's either 8 or 10, depending on your player count, then the whole galaxy is deemed to be connected, and that triggers the end of the game. That's a good chunk of the way through the game, but it's not sort of taken too long to get there, unless, for instance, no one just wants to go and explore that planet over there. Now, once that happens, you have 3 full rounds, so you finish that round, and then 3 full more rounds to drop off as many people as you can, and then the game is over and you're going to count up your points. Now, there is another case, and it does say it's rare in the rulebook, but actually we've seen it actually in one game. The 2 end conditions happened at the same time of everything was connected, 3, 2, 1. The other condition is if the deck of passengers runs out, you do a complete 1 more round, and that happened at the exact time, so we actually had the 2 end conditions aligned. It's supposed to be rare, but that was quite an entertaining thing that we managed to hit that at the same time. So you've travelled out, you've hopefully got some of those exploration tokens, you've maybe delivered to more than 5 planets for bonus points, and then all of those passengers are 2 points a pop. And that is pretty much how you play. There's a few sort of additional bits, like in setup. Once you've played a game, it basically says, for your first game, use the basic ones, but when you've played, maybe flip some of those over with a randomised token that you can use. And they've got little extra things like wild wormholes that only you can use to your own ones. So, you know, if you're the yellow player, you can use the wild 3 to get to either of the yellow active 3 wormholes for free. There is a proton cannon which will blast you in the direction as far as you want through things that you wouldn't normally be able to go through, but you still have to end on an empty space. And like nebula that you pay movement into, but then you can wiggle along it for free and sort of get off the other side. And little things that just make the map a little bit more fun and different each time. But that's, again, that's done through setup, and it affects gameplay by just making that map a little bit more unique. So let's start there. Starting off, you are going to make a different map pretty much every time, because those tiles are going to be rotated in different directions, and that can mean in one game a planet is really hard to get to because it's being blocked off almost by a load of asteroids here, and then maybe the sun's there, so you've got to go all the way around, and then someone will drop a wormhole and it becomes very easy to easy and accessible. You've got the fact that at the start of that game, you're sort of looking out at all of those special places, like the proton cannon, because maybe its location isn't very good this game. You know, it's off in one angle, and the sort of lines it's going to create, well, there's not actually too many great places for it. But in another game, the randomised placement of that makes it really good. So the setup is nice. I do kind of wish there was maybe just 1 or 2 sort of randomised tiles that didn't feature planets that would just maybe expand or interrupt part of the map. You know, a random bit of extra asteroid here or asteroid there, just to change some of that up and create some weird extra map bits. That could have been fun, but it's still, the map is going to be different-ish, at least, every time, and creates different opportunities for the different players. And especially when you've got the 4 or 5 player count, you've got the extra 2 tiles that you have to remove for the 3 player game, so it's just that bit bigger and it looks a little bit grander on the table. Production wise, the little ships, they're really obvious and clear which one is which, although it would be nice if everyone's ships was maybe a different shape or something. Those activated wormholes, you know very clearly when a wormhole is active or not, because on one side it's got the number but it's sort of on a black background, and then you flip it over and it's got that player's colour. So you can very quickly look around the board and go, right, that's the blue 2 and that goes to the blue 2 over there, not the yellow 2 or the green one that's over there. Now I don't know if those colours are going to be problematic for people with sort of colour blindness, but at least for me, it was very easy to be able to scan the board and see, right, these are those 2 that link, even though they've got the same numbers or whatever, but the colours really made it sort of stand out and pop. It's also nice that they included a player aid card in there for each player. It just helps that first game because it reminds you what your free actions are, so you don't have to look in the rulebook as much. And when you flip some of those tiles over, it's on the reverse of that player aid card. It's got what they do, so you don't have to be like, oh, guys, what does the nebula do again? What can't do that sort of thing. So it just means you're not checking the rulebook as much. Really do enjoy when a game puts in a player aid. If it's a card or whatever, just makes things a little bit simpler. As the gameplay goes, it's a nice transition throughout the game of Wormholes. At the start, there aren't many wormholes out there. You are starting from that space station and everyone's going off in different directions, or maybe a couple of people are sort of vying in one direction and that, and you're slowly sort of tiptoeing away from that space station because you've not got any of those wormholes up and running. And then all of a sudden, a couple of turns in, a couple of rounds in, people have sort of got their first wormhole down, they've got back to the space station, maybe with some other passengers, and you start to get a hand of those cards where you've got up to four of these passengers, and you start to go, okay, I'm aiming for over there. Right, well, if I use this wormhole that someone else is, that's going to get me half of the way. But if I drop a wormhole here and then go out, then I can get back and then I can get to that planet for free really quickly later on. And you get this developing board that at the start, it's quite slow progress going out. And by the end, when everything is connected, you can really jump around. You can be on a planet one side of the board, starting there. You can shift halfway across the board, deliver some people, pick some people up, and then maybe do a little bit of movement to get to another wormhole that pings you over to the opposite side that you started from and deliver some more. And you can deliver, I've actually seen someone deliver 6 passengers on one turn. It was like near the end because everything was connected. But they were able to drop everyone off at one planet, get back very quickly through like one energy spent, so one movement, and the rest through 3 wormhole moves, back to the station. They picked up some more people from the station, which you can pick up once per turn, and then jumped on through another wormhole, spending a bit of energy to get there to that planet. And it was a really big turn, point scoring turn, because A, they dropped more people off, and B, it was to another planet that they'd not been to. Then they were already above their 5 planets. They was getting bonus points for it. And it just feels a really sort of good, choicey sort of game that you can sit there. It doesn't take too long and you can work out, right, these are my passengers. How can I get there for the cheapest? Is it worth me jumping through those opponent wormholes, giving them points? Or do I just take the slower turn and go across actual space and sort of slow deliver it rather than jumping about? And right to the end of the game, you're going to have those choices because you can be giving others a lot of points. And we've seen it where actually you take those piles of points out the game and a different player has won, despite, delivering the people being one of the most important things. It's just a really quite simple pick up and deliver game. It's not got too much going on that's going to really make you struggle and think about your turns, but it's got enough that you're constantly waiting, right, if I drop my wormhole there, it's going to maybe help me later if I can work things in my direction. And that's what it is. It's playing a bit of that deck because you're drawing random passengers from the deck if you're at planets, keeping an eye on that station discarded area. So if you get back to the station, I can take all of those, that one type, and get to that one planet for a big drop off. And there's some nice choices there because you never want to discard too many of the same type because that's going to probably just help someone else. Well, it's all up to the players around that make it. And why I say it's simple to teach because there's only a small selection of things you can do on your turn, but you're going to be doing them nice and quickly, and then the play's back round to you and you're doing a bit more. So it never feels like it's too easy. And the way that sort of game has developed with maybe a lot of wormholes over here, and for some reason not over there. Again, that just changes from game to game of how valuable getting certain wormholes down, or wormholes down first, for those exploration tokens. Now, there's a few things that I think could have been included in this. It would have been maybe nice to see, like I said at the beginning, just an extra bit of board or boards just to make some of the maps a bit more unique. There's also special designs for maps with different shapes for solo mode. I'd have quite liked to see some of that that logic been put into the main game. You could easily do that though, I think, because you could just add in one of the additional planet boards and maybe just not add that planet deck in at the 3-player count. At 4 and 5 you're using all of the boards, so you could maybe just shuffle them around or make a different shape, and I think that could work quite cool, especially when you get to like the proton cannon, which it does say can fire across gaps of game board as long as it's in that straight line still. I just wish that that had had its own little section for non-solo in the rulebook. There's also something about the fact that there's no sort of asymmetry in the game that they could have maybe exploited. Maybe each colour has its own sort of unique power. Potentially one player starts placing their number 2 wormhole, which doesn't sound like it could be very interesting, but it allows them, when there's that wild number 3 wormhole, just to get there that little bit quicker. Maybe another player on their first turn could use an additional energy or something like that. And I think that could have just maybe added just that little bit of flair on top of the sort of extra map elements that you can add or not add, depending on if it's your first game or not. It's maybe just a missed opportunity that it feels like this sort of game would normally have, or could have. Not a detriment to the game, because I've really enjoyed it. I just wish there was a little bit more. Maybe there's a Wormholes expansion, and that could be in it, sort of thing. So that would be quite cool. But overall, as pick up and deliver games go, it's quite unique and cool because most of them are very sluggish and slow. You're moving across the board, encountering things and going round them and everything. In this, yeah, at the start of the game it's a bit sluggish going out, moving, but by the end you are leaping, launching about this board, and there's not really many pick up and deliver games where you're effectively making every space, or not every space, but a ton of the spaces adjacent to each other with free movement opportunities. It kind of wraps the board in different ways with wormholes, as you're just like, right, normally in a game like this, I couldn't just get from one side of the map to the other for free, let alone, for spending some resource, let alone for free. And that just makes Wormholes a really unique game that's 100% staying in my collection. It's been a game that as soon as it hit the table, I was like, I need to get this back to the table again. And I can really see it being, because it plays in like 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your player count, maybe sort of 45, just a bit above with the max player count of 5. It works really well, for the fact is that you can play this game in that short time, have done pickup and delivery, wormhole goodness. So yeah, highly recommend Wormholes. Definitely check this one out. If you've played it, let me know what you think of it in the comments section below. And until next time, well, check out other awesome stuff on the channel, news, reviews and all that sort of jazz. And I'm Oliver East, signing out.